You can't have growth and be comfortable. That just isn't going to happen, right? You can't sit there and just kind of comfortably walk through life and think that, yes, I'm going to be the best version of myself, and I never pushed my limits.
Who doesn't want to be a great leader? A leader who's calm under pressure, insightful, respected, well-liked. But what does it take to become a great leader? Hey, I'm Boo, and welcome to my podcast. The Few Leadership Podcast defines great leadership and what great leadership looks like. And I've found some of the world's best leaders or experts in the field of leadership to help you accelerate your leadership journey so you can be an ace at the game of leadership. If you're ready to rethink everything you know about leadership, if you're excited about accelerating your leadership journey, let's strap in and ignite your leadership potential. All right, mate, give us some insight into how you personally show up in some of your practices. I mean, I know you've applied this skill and mindset from an entrepreneurial perspective as well as coaching others, but just give us, maybe just share with us how Keith shows up each and every day.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. Like, my why is, I actually have a tattoo to my arm, is to change the world, right? And specifically through business. So a lot of what I do applies to the business perspective, but that's still the mindset I wake up with every single day. So how can I put a smile on somebody's face that may just need it, right? It might be a stranger at the grocery store, or it might be an opportunity like this to be on a podcast and share some insight and wisdom or inspiration that somebody then carries forward. And I never know how it might impact a room or whatever else, but that's not the why I do it, right? The idea is doing it, to change the world and understanding that we all have that ability. In fact, it's one of the, I created this for me and my kids, this list of Sampson family values, these things that I try to teach them that they can learn and carry forward. And one of the ideas is we will leave a legacy, good or bad, right? It's up to us to determine what kind of legacy do we want to leave behind. So those are the thoughts that permeate when I wake up every single day. It's, what am I doing to impact the lives of others? What am I doing to push myself to be a better version of myself? And this can be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The routine that I have with my mornings has changed significantly, even over the last 8 months, to help make sure that I'm in a place to, whether it's business or kids, to handle decision-making, handle situations with a clear mind and not an emotional reactionary perspective.
And you can't help that though, right? This is, as much as people want to moderate their emotion, the reality is those primal structures of the brain just get triggered. And all you can do is choose what next, as opposed to, do I lean into this and allow it to own me and define me in the next day and the next day and the next day? Or do I use it as an opportunity to get inside someone else's shoes and to see that we obviously have it with we have a 3 turning 4-year-old, and clearly the easiest thing is to push back when they push out. You're like, I wonder why they're getting frustrated. Like, there's a reason that's triggered. And when you see humanity, really, we're all kind of growing from that toddler kind of mindset, and we go through life and we do what we're told, and we become really proficient at our job technically. And then as we get older again, it's almost like we revert back to children. I don't know what your kids' grandparents are like and your parents, but sometimes it's like, I feel like we're going backwards on the toddler curve here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I don't know if you're familiar with the book, Extreme Ownership. Yeah. Such a good book, right? And that's kind of one of the things I've applied into my life, and the idea that we own everything, period, right? And we own our emotional reactions. So I was just listening to Midlife Male by Greg Scheinman over the weekend, and he has a line in there, like, we can't control what happens to us, but we definitely control how we react to it, right? So like the idea, and I've seen plenty of people that live in this victim mentality, right? Something may have happened to you, but you own how you let it affect or what you choose to do with it, right? So like I said, even though, yes, there's these primal reactionary things that want to happen in our brain, I can tell you the Keith Sampson that was handling events or things that created extreme frustrations, especially in my personal life, of 3 or 4 years ago, because of the work I've done to own more of that, to slow some stuff down, to have more of a head, hearts, hands like response, I can stay a lot more calm under those exact same circumstances, right? There's still triggers, right? And usually, and you have kids. So, I mean, like my kids are one of the biggest ones. If somebody comes after my kids, that's going to be a hard one to not get more reactionary quickly, right? But the changes that I've made in my life, I feel I'm at a much better place, because what I realized was when I was reacting poorly, I was also becoming a person that I wasn't proud of. That wasn't truly me, right? I was disappointing myself.
You also create a worse situation, right? You're actually leaning into a bad situation and making it worse. As much as you want to just force the issue to be a response that meets your biases and beliefs, it ain't going to work. I mean, and I think that's the challenge with the world right now, is that everyone's like, do it my way, or it's war, do it my way, or I'm going to kick your ass. And it just propagates more violence, more anger, more primal responses to situations that really, for most of us, like, hey, I just want to go to work, take my kids down the park, have a good life. It's just I call it the psychopathic mindset, right? Where it's like literally any input is like destroy, the other person. So kids, how do you get kids to be growth minded?
Oh man. So this is again, that went into like the whole idea of the Sampson family values, right? And it's pushing them into that, because I want them to have that grow through it mindset without the situation that I was put in, right? I mean, my dad got diagnosed with a terminal disease, right? Here's a tragic situation that put myself into it. And truly is, anybody can choose to grow through life and grow through events without having a tragedy presented in front of them to make that choice. So the question of how do I raise kids to have a grow through it mindset, a lot of it, you started the whole podcast idea out with choices. And so when I went through my first divorce and I ended up a single dad of 2.5-year-old twins, right? Boy, girl, which is crazy enough as it is. But I'm sitting there going, okay, how do I raise these kids to end up in this destination?
I love that word, destination, as well.
Right?
Not goal, but like a really defined destination.
Correct. And it came down to, they need to be able to make good choices. So now it's, how do I raise kids to make good choices? And I remember black and white, plain as day. I'm in the bathroom staring at myself in the mirror, thinking about this and going, that's it. They need to see so much value in who they are when they look in the mirror, that they see so much value in who they are as a child of God, a child of mine, that they don't feel they need to make choices to seek the approval of others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot in that. There's a lot in that. I mean, how many really nice people have you seen that just constantly make bad choices? So how do you break that cycle? Clearly, there's the old, hit rock bottom, no options left, and you change. I was divorced the same age. My kids were the same age. My only divorce, which was 1 and 4. And that was a big process for me as well, where I made the decision, I am angry at this, and I'm going to be angry due to the circumstances that led up to this. However, this is my opportunity to grow. This is my opportunity to internalize the process and move forward from it. Through that process and being in business and meeting lots and lots and lots of people, what is it that makes people who are like good-hearted and gentle just make such terrible decisions?
I mean, at the end of the day, I've seen this. It's, in my opinion, again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trained in certain areas. So I'm going to speak from life experience, right? I have seen people of all walks of life, of all positions, from customer service reps to CEOs, and all wealth levels, right? Making bad decisions or allowing their emotions to control the room or an event. And I really, truly think most of it is rooted in some form of insecurity, right? There is something in their life that they have not done the work to address. Maybe they don't even know it's there yet, right? That triggers, and then they have a reaction or they make a choice. Because I'm insecure and fill in the blank, I've got to overcompensate to do this.
If you're enjoying the show, I'd just like to ask of you a little favor. We're on a mission here to ignite the world's leadership potential. We need to reach out to as many leaders as we possibly can. So if you're enjoying the show, I just ask you to leave a review, to subscribe, to help introduce this podcast to other leaders to join you on your journey to flawless leadership. We're going to head back to the episode now. I hope you've enjoyed what you've learned today. Please remember, let's ignite a movement of flawless leaders. Subscribe, leave a review. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, I think you're right. I think insecurities and also conformity, that product of your environment line of conversation, right? Where people just, you certainly notice that in the military where you conform to a pretty high standard because you have to or you're out. And other people that sort of, fall in with a bad crowd or a party crowd or whatever. And it just becomes, your behavior just mimics the environment that you're in. And you kind of, just the thought of being lonely, it becomes more powerful, or the thought of not having a tribe becomes more powerful than the bad behaviors that the tribe kind of promotes.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And the idea of this entire conversation around a growth mindset starts with that first choice. Am I willing to put the work into myself to become a better version of me? Right? I mean, like that choice to go, I'm going to explore some of the depths that I may not want to become a better leader, a better employee, a better husband, wife, parent, son, daughter, whatever it is, friend. If we're not willing to choose to do the work to explore those parts of us, then we've already capped out our potential. And one of my big things, and it kind of goes back to one of the questions you asked, like how does leaders empower their people? Number one, are you doing work to make sure that they're continuing growing into the better version of themselves? Number two, are you looking at somebody's potential and saying, I'm going to help you maximize that? Because each person has their own individual potential. And this is something I learned in the fitness world first, right? Like, again, I'm 5'6". The Sampson DNA is not favorable to six-pack abs. It just isn't, right? So, no matter how much work I do, there's certain things I'm just not going to have a certain physique or whatever else, or I have to do 5 times the amount of work as somebody else. However, so when I started doing like CrossFit, for example, what I learned and loved about that style of workout was a great workout is when you got done and you're laying out on the floor. You're just a pile of sweat and you can't move. Okay? The guy or girl next to you maybe did different weight, different reps, ended up at the same result. We each have our own potential that we are currently in and that we're working towards. Our mind, there is no difference. So we have a physical potential that we can maximize, and we have a mental potential that we can maximize. But however, just like in the physical side, if I'm not going to get out and hit the streets with some running, if I'm not going to get in and take the time to do the gym, whatever else, I'm never going to maximize that physical potential that I have. And if I'm not investing in myself, challenging my inputs, consuming content, digging deep to deal with some of the stuff in my own life to push myself mentally, I'm not going to achieve that maximum potential either. And then what am I really then, when you look at the bigger picture of legacy, what am I really doing then? What am I really leaving behind? What am I really showing my kids? What am I leading with them on an example, both physically and mentally, spiritually, emotionally, if I'm not consciously working on all of those categories to become that best version of myself and maximize my potential in those areas?
I want to just close out the podcast on a very specific question, because I don't think there's many people out there truly who aren't well-intentioned, right? Who do deep down want to achieve their full potential. Now, through your journey, for me, I don't love exercise, right? I've got an autoimmune disease. I have lots of painful joints. So for me, I get the double whammy of the exercise being painful, but also just the pain of moving an arthritic body. So I don't love exercise, but I do it, right? Because I have to. So one of the really important things I think about mindset is action, right? Like having a mindset is one thing, but without the action supporting the mindset, it just becomes, that just becomes nothing. It just becomes meaningless words. And I don't think you can hack your psyche. I think positive affirmation only gets you so far on your journey, right? One of the things about growth is pain. So how do you get through the painful moments? What is the trigger? What is the mental gymnastics that you run through in order to break through that decision and start those steps?
So number one, the idea that my mind is going to give up before my body does, unless somebody has, like, well, you have autoimmune disease, your body is going to create some limits for you in that. And everybody has some of their limits. Some people can have different circumstances, but number one was really wrapped around my,
like it's still, yeah. you can say there and go, oh, that this is a great excuse not to exercise.
Exactly. Right. Our mind is going to try to protect our bodies. So first and foremost, knowing that And Sterling Hawkins has an incredible saying, and I think to summarize it best, on the other side of discomfort, because that is pain, that is suffering, is discomfort, right? So on the other side of discomfort, it's not only growth, but life's greatest experiences. And I think people who aren't willing to go, you know what, there's some pain and there's some suffering here, but if I push through that, I'm going to accomplish something I never thought I could. And I was running 8 miles in Denver. I just finished an 8-mile race or run in Denver when I was out there doing some altitude training about a month ago. And again, I'm referencing Cameron Haynes, listening to his new book, Undeniable. And he's talking about that suffering and pain. And I'm like running because I was originally going to do 6 and I pushed it 2 more. And yes, I'm going to suffer through this, blah, blah, blah. And it hit me as I finished my run and stopped my watch. I'm going, oh my gosh, no amount of pain and suffering that I can put myself through doing something like this physically matches the pain and suffering I felt when I lost my dad or when I lost an unborn son. However, choosing to put myself in these situations to endure pain and suffering strengthens myself both physically and mentally. So when those other situations happen in life, I know I can handle it. I have more confidence when I address it. You know what I mean? So the idea of growth, you can't have growth and be comfortable. That just isn't going to happen, right? You can't sit there and just kind of comfortably walk through life and think that, yes, I'm going to be the best version of myself, and I never pushed my limits. So, if you're really going to strive to push yourself, you better be ready for some pain and suffering along the way. And at the same time, that's chosen pain and suffering, because pain and suffering that will choose you, it will happen. It is inevitable.
Yeah, it's interesting as well in that, we live a very comfortable life. I can't remember, I was watching the other day, it says, 50 years ago, most of us didn't even have a warm shower, right? Didn't have hot water in the house. But when you look at the way in which the human body is engineered, when you look at the true purpose of dopamine, the true purpose of oxytocin, the true purpose of serotonin, and the true purpose of endorphins, every one of those is designed to trigger in your body to help you manage pain, to help you overcome something that is uncomfortable, and to reward you for the effort. And it's literally, we've created a world where we have to artificially manufacture all that now through synthetic applications like amphetamines and SSRIs, and because we avoid the hard that gives you the good at the end of it. I mean, my grandmother's 99 years old, right? And she fell over about 6 months ago. And when she got into the ambulance, the paramedic said, oh, when's the last time you went to hospital? And she's like, this is the first time I've ever been in hospital or in an ambulance at the age of 99, right? And you look at that, and her mindset in her life has always been, just get on with it. Just get on with it. Just get on with it. And she's lived a remarkable life, And I think that so much is in life is like, yeah, it's going to hurt. Just get on with it, And they're not even difficult things, right? Cut out sugary drinks if you're overweight. Don't eat sugar. But for a lot of, in the reset of our pain threshold, now that's a painful experience to go without sugar. So one of the things that, and let's close it out now because we'll keep going. We'll blow out.
It's a lot of fun
listening to this. But for those who never had this painful experience, right? I mean, I do think that in life, when we're presented with something that can be utterly horrendous, it's also a gift. It's God saying, hey, look, I'm going to really inflict something pretty nasty and deep, a big wound on you here. And I want you to take that and preach it and help the world as a result. But you and I work with a lot of people that never had that, right? Like, or they get later in life, or so give me some baby steps for somebody who's just lived a vanilla life, who kind of hasn't had a big reason to grow, or, is kind of content with the world, or has convinced themselves to be content, but deep down. And I think people convince themselves, when you talk, particularly me as, when I'm as a fighter pilot, you meet a lot of people that said, I always wanted to be a fighter pilot, but I didn't. I did something else. I settled for something else. And I'm like, yeah, man, I just was, because that's all I wanted to do with all my heart and soul. I just put everything into it. So what are some baby steps that you would say for someone that has kind of convinced themselves that this is the best it is and I'm just going to accept it?
Whew, that's a great question. I'm going to reverse engineer a thought and see if this helps with that. I think if somebody hasn't been injected into a place in life that has pushed them to like a true watershed moment, right? We all have a handful of those watershed life-defining moments that happen in our life. I would say that at some point you have to start challenging yourself a little bit, right? And I would say, what is your purpose? Okay, so if you can identify a purpose, what are you contributing to that's bigger than yourself? And I think if somebody can get real with that, right? And maybe it's a series of questions to start that. What is your purpose? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you waking up every single day and going to work? Like, what is your purpose? And if somebody can then get tied to a purpose, get tied to something bigger than themselves, so when their feet hit the ground in the morning, they're happy and excited to go do what they're going to go do. Now, all of a sudden, that can actually become the trigger point to go, okay, can I do it better? If I become a better version of myself, does that allow me to accomplish my purpose with greater meaning and impact, right? So I think if somebody hasn't had a catalyst in their life to really push them into, I can't live mediocre anymore, right? I'm no longer going to live. I'm not happy at mediocre. I'm not going to live mediocre. I'm not going to live vanilla. And they haven't had something to smack them upside the head and give them that wake up call. Then the action item is really going, why am I here? Yeah, like, what is my purpose? Can I find a purpose? And if somebody can find a purpose and do the work on that end, that will push them into a greater sense of being, a greater sense of accomplishment in all areas of their life.
Awesome. Hey, Keith, I'm taking something away from this that I'm going to use. I will attribute it to you, but I've never really heard the phrase, don't go through it, grow through it. And I love that. I think that should be your speaker topic.
It is.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Great job. So how do people find you, mate, if they want to have a conversation, bring you in, do some work with you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn's a great platform to connect with me on. I'm also on Instagram, both those, I am Keith Sampson. And then my website's getting a revamp right now. So if you go to iamkeithsampson.com, you can definitely connect with me there. It's not a great site. Hopefully in about another month, it'll be completely revamped. But yeah,
it's growing. It's in growth. It's in growth mode.
100%, right? And to tie that off, even the technology side of it, right? The website has to reflect, hopefully, the impact I can have on the lives of others.
Awesome, mate. We've got Keith's links in the show notes below. Again, don't forget to leave a review. Reviews are the best. Follow us here on YouTube, Spotify, whatever platform you're watching this. Hey, Keith, thanks so much. I appreciate your generosity and sharing your personal life experiences and helping some of the leaders on the podcast just make that next step into growth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on here. Thanks for everybody for watching and listening.